You're not lost. You know exactly where you are. You wake up in the same place. You follow the same routines. You move through a life that still recognizes you. Nothing is unfamiliar. Nothing is confusing. Nothing suggests that you've lost your way. And yet, something feels wrong. Not wrong in a way you can explain. Wrong in a way you can only feel. Because being lost means you don't know where to go. But you do go. Every day. You arrive where you're supposed to arrive. You complete what you're supposed to complete. You respond the way you're supposed to respond. Your life continues with you inside it, at least physically. But presence is not physical. Presence is psychological. And psychologically, something is missing. You begin to notice it in quiet moments. Moments where nothing is distracting you. Moments where you expect to feel something and don't. You look around your life. Everything is there. Everything you worked for. Everything you built. Everything you thought would make you feel here. But you don't. You feel distant, not from your life, from yourself inside it. You hear your own voice speak. You watch your own body move. You see your own life continue, but it feels like observation, not participation, like you are slightly behind your own existence, following it, not inside it. And the most unsettling part is this: nothing collapsed. Nothing forced you to leave. Nothing pushed you out. You didn't lose your life. You remained inside it, but remaining is not the same as arriving. Because you can remain somewhere long after you've stopped being there. You're not lost. Lost people search. Lost people wander. Lost people know something is missing and try to find it. You didn't search. You didn't wander. You stayed. You continued. You functioned. And that's what made it invisible. Your body stayed. Your identity stayed. Your life stayed. But you quietly stopped arriving. You're not lost. You're just not here. And the question you can no longer avoid is this: when did you leave? Without ever going anywhere. There was no single moment where you disappeared. No clear exit. No final decision. If there had been, you would remember it. You would have felt it. You would have marked the day everything changed. But nothing like that ever happened. You didn't leave your life. You stayed. That's what makes it so difficult to understand. You kept showing up. You kept answering messages. You kept finishing your days. From the outside, nothing about you suggested absence. You were present in every place your life required you to be. But presence is not measured by location. It's measured by participation. And slowly your participation changed. You began to notice how automatic everything felt, how your responses arrived without effort, how your words came out already prepared, how your reactions completed themselves, not chosen, executed. You told yourself this was maturity. This was stability. This was what it meant to become someone reliable, someone consistent, someone in control. And control made everything easier. Control removed uncertainty. Control removed unpredictability. Control removed the emotional risks that once made you feel exposed. But control also removed something else. You, not completely. Just enough. Enough for your life to continue, without requiring you to fully arrive inside it. Because arrival requires uncertainty. Arrival requires presence. Arrival requires you to step into the moment, without knowing exactly who you will be inside it. Continuation requires none of that. Continuation only requires you to remain, and you did remain. Your life never lost you. You simply stopped entering it, day by day, moment by moment. You stayed where you were, but you stopped being there. At first it felt like progress. You became more efficient, more controlled, more capable of handling your life without emotional interference. You stopped overreacting, stopped questioning everything, stopped feeling overwhelmed by uncertainty. You told yourself this was growth. This was maturity. This was strength. And in many ways it was. You learned how to regulate yourself, how to remain stable, how to continue even when things felt heavy. You became someone your life could depend on, someone reliable, someone functional. And functionality made everything easier. You stopped needing emotional clarity to move forward. You moved forward anyway. You stopped needing motivation. You acted out of discipline. You stopped needing certainty. You relied on structure. Structure became your foundation. It told you what to do, when to do it, who to be. And the more you followed it, the less you needed to ask yourself anything. Structure removed friction. Structure removed hesitation. Structure removed the emotional volatility that once made your life unpredictable. And unpredictability had once felt dangerous. So predictability became your safety. You knew what tomorrow would look like. You knew how your conversations would unfold. You knew how to perform your identity without effort, because your identity became procedural, a sequence of actions, a series of responses, a system. And systems don't require presence. Systems require execution. So execution replaced participation. You began to execute your life, not live it. You woke up, completed your responsibilities, maintained your relationships, continued your routines. And continuation created the illusion that you were still here. But illusion is convincing when nothing interrupts it. Nothing forced you to stop. Nothing forced you to ask where you were. Nothing forced you to notice the distance forming inside you. Because distance doesn't appear suddenly. It accumulates. In moments where you silence yourself. In moments where you choose stability over honesty. In moments where you continue forward, even when something inside you hesitates. Hesitation became something you ignored. Because hesitation slowed you down. Hesitation disrupted your efficiency. Hesitation threatened your control. And control became essential. Control protected your life from chaos. Control protected your identity from collapse. Control protected your survival. But survival is not the same as presence. Survival keeps your life intact. Presence keeps you inside it. And slowly survival replaced presence. Not visibly, internally. You stopped asking yourself how you felt. You started asking yourself what needed to be done. You stopped asking yourself what you wanted. You started asking yourself what made sense. You stopped asking yourself who you were becoming. You started asking yourself who you needed to be. Needed to be for your responsibilities. Needed to be for your relationships. Needed to be for your life to continue without disruption. And the more you became what was needed, the less you remained who you were. Not because you were pretending, because you were adapting. Adapting to maintain stability. Adapting to maintain continuity. Adapting to maintain survival. Adaptation is powerful. Adaptation allows you to exist in environments that would otherwise break you. But adaptation has a hidden cost. It replaces authorship with functionality. You stop creating yourself. You start maintaining yourself. Maintenance requires consistency. Maintenance requires repetition. Maintenance requires you to remain the same, even when something inside you wants to change. Even when something inside you wants to return. Return to uncertainty. Return to curiosity. Return to presence. But presence feels inefficient. Presence slows you down. Presence exposes you to unpredictability. And unpredictability threatens survival. So, survival continues. Your life continues. Your identity continues. Your routines continue. Everything continues. But continuation does not require you. Continuation only requires your system. Your autopilot. An autopilot is precise. Autopilot knows how to perform your life without needing your awareness. It knows how to speak when spoken to. It knows how to respond when expected. It knows how to maintain your existence. And maintenance hides absence perfectly, because nothing breaks, nothing collapses, nothing signals emergency. Your life functions exactly as it should, which makes it almost impossible to see the truth. You didn't lose your way. You didn't become someone else. You became someone automatic. Automatic enough to survive. Automatic enough to continue. Automatic enough to exist. Without being fully here, you begin to notice it in rare moments. Moments where your autopilot pauses. Moments where your awareness briefly returns. Moments where you realize you have no memory of how you arrived where you are. Not physically, existentially. You realize your life has been happening without you fully experiencing it. Your body was present. Your identity was present. Your actions were present, but you were not. Not completely, not consciously. You didn't leave your life. You left your presence inside it. And your autopilot took your place, not to betray you, to protect you. To protect you from uncertainty, to protect you from chaos, to protect you from feeling too much. But protection became permanent. Protection became identity. Protection became absence. And absence became your normal. Until now? Now you see it. Your life never lost you. You stopped arriving, and your autopilot learned how to live it for you. The most unsettling realization isn't that you left. It's that nothing noticed. Your life didn't pause. It didn't collapse. It didn't wait for you to return. It continued, perfectly. Your routines remained intact. Your responsibilities remained fulfilled. Your relationships remained stable. Everything that defined your existence kept moving forward. Without interruption, without resistance, without you. Not physically, psychologically. You begin to see how little your life required your presence. It required your body. It required your responses. It required your identity. But it never required your awareness. Awareness was optional. Execution was not. So execution replaced awareness. You became someone who could execute your life flawlessly. You knew what to say. You knew what to do. You knew how to maintain the version of yourself your life depended on. And the more precise your execution became, the less anyone noticed your absence. Because absence hides behind performance. If you perform well enough, no one questions whether you're truly there. You begin to realize something that changes everything. Your life never belonged to your presence. It belonged to your continuity. Continuity was the only thing it needed. Continuity kept everything predictable. Continuity kept everything stable. Continuity kept everything safe. And continuity is easy to maintain, even after you've disappeared. You didn't vanish. You were replaced, not by someone else, by a version of yourself designed for survival. A version optimized for efficiency, optimized for stability, optimized for continuation. This version didn't hesitate, didn't question, didn't feel the need to interrupt anything. It simply continued. And continuation became your identity. Not because it was authentic, because it was necessary. Necessary to protect everything you had built. Necessary to protect everything that depended on you. Necessary to protect your life from uncertainty. Uncertainty had once threatened you. Uncertainty had once exposed you. Uncertainty had once forced you to confront parts of yourself you weren't ready to face. So you learned to eliminate it. You learned to replace uncertainty with structure. Replace curiosity with routine. Replace presence with predictability. Predictability made you safe. Predictability made you stable. Predictability made you absent, because absence thrives in predictability. Predictability removes the need to pay attention. Predictability removes the need to choose. Predictability removes the need to arrive. And arrival is what you stopped doing. You stopped arriving inside your own life. Not all at once, gradually. You arrived less fully each day, less consciously, less honestly, until arrival became unnecessary. Your autopilot arrived for you. Your identity arrived for you. Your personality arrived for you. And eventually your life stopped expecting you to arrive at all. This is the midpoint most people never see. The moment they realize their life became independent of their presence, independent of their awareness, independent of their participation. Their life became self-sustaining, self-executing, self-maintaining, and self-maintaining lives do not require authors. They require operators. Operators execute instructions. Operators follow structure. Operators maintain continuity. You became the operator of your own existence, not its author. And authorship is where presence lives. Authorship requires uncertainty. Authorship requires choice. Authorship requires you to step into the unknown and create something new. But operators avoid the unknown. Operators maintain what already exists. Operators protect stability. Operators survive. And survival was enough. Enough to keep your life intact. Enough to keep everything from collapsing. Enough to keep you functioning. Even after you stopped being fully there. You realize now that your life didn't need to trap you. It didn't need to break you. It didn't need to force you to stay. It only needed to continue. Because continuation allowed your absence to remain invisible. Continuation allowed your autopilot to replace you. Continuation allowed your identity to perform without your presence. Continuation allowed your life to move forward, without you ever truly arriving inside it. And now for the first time you see it clearly. You didn't lose your way. You didn't lose your life. You lost your presence. And your life adapted. It learned how to exist without it. It learned how to function without you. It learned how to continue without waiting for you to come back. You were never lost. You were absent. And absence was enough for your life to forget you were ever gone. When you finally see it, the first thing you feel isn't panic. It's grief. Not loud grief. Not the kind that breaks you open in front of the world. Quiet grief. The kind that sits behind your eyes while everything else continues normally. Because nothing ended. Your life is still here. Your routines are still here. Your identity is still here. But you realize you weren't. Not fully. You begin to look at your own memories differently. Not as experiences you lived, as moments you passed through. Moments that never fully reached you. Moments that never stayed. You remember conversations you don't emotionally recall. Days you completed but never felt. Years that exist in sequence, but not in presence. And that realization is difficult to face. Because it means your absence wasn't a moment. It was a period. A long one. You didn't leave suddenly. You faded slowly. So slowly that no one noticed. Not even you. You begin to understand why. Because nothing interrupted the pattern. Nothing created enough friction to force your awareness back. Pain interrupts. Loss interrupts. Chaos interrupts. But stability does not. Stability protects continuity. Stability protects survival. Stability protects absence. You survived, you maintained your life, you fulfilled your role, you did everything correctly, and correctness replaced presence. You became correct instead of alive. Correct responses, correct decisions, correct identity, everything correct, everything acceptable, everything functioning. But correctness never asked if you were there. Correctness never asked if you felt connected. Correctness never asked if you were still inside yourself. It only asked you to continue, and continuation became your identity, not consciously. Automatically, you begin to feel grief for the version of yourself that disappeared during that time. Not because they died, because they were never allowed to fully exist. They were replaced by the version of you that survived, the version that adapted, the version that functioned, the version that protected everything from falling apart. That version saved your life, but it also replaced you inside it. You realize now that absence doesn't mean you were weak. Absence means you were protecting yourself from uncertainty, protecting yourself from instability, protecting yourself from feeling too much. Because feeling too much once made your life feel unsafe. So you learned to feel less. You learned to distance yourself. You learned to survive. And survival worked. It kept everything intact. It kept everything moving. It kept everything fine. But survival was never meant to be permanent. Survival was meant to carry you through danger, not replace your existence. And grief appears now because something in you knows that you were meant to be here. Not just physically, present, aware, alive. You grieve the time you spent watching your life instead of living it. You grieve the moments that passed without you. You grieve the version of yourself that waited silently for you to come back, because they never left. They stayed, hidden behind your autopilot, hidden behind your survival, hidden behind the version of you that continued without question. And grief becomes the signal, not that something is ending, but that something is returning. The part of you that notices the absence is the part of you that was never gone. Still here, still waiting, still capable of arriving again. The return doesn't begin with a decision. It begins with a moment, a small, almost invisible moment where your autopilot pauses. And for the first time in a long time, you notice it. You notice yourself in the middle of your own life, not completing it, not maintaining it, inside it. It feels unfamiliar, not because it's new, because it's been missing. You begin to see the exact places where you used to disappear. The moments where your responses would arrive automatically. The moments where your emotions would be replaced by control. The moments where continuation would take over. Before you didn't see those moments. Now you do. And seeing them changes something fundamental. Because autopilot only works when it remains invisible. The moment you see it, you are no longer fully inside it. You begin to feel hesitation again. Not weakness, presence. Presence interrupts automation. Presence slows everything down. Presence forces you to experience your life while it's happening, instead of after it's already passed. You notice how different it feels to actually be inside a moment, not observing it, participating in it. You notice how unfamiliar uncertainty feels, how exposed, how real. Because uncertainty means you are here. Autopilot removes uncertainty. Autopilot replaces choice with execution. Autopilot protects you from unpredictability, but it also protects you from aliveness. And now, for the first time, you begin to understand something important. Your autopilot was never your enemy. It was your protection. It stepped in when you needed distance. It stepped in when presence felt dangerous. It stepped in when survival mattered more than experience. It allowed your life to continue when you couldn't fully be there. It carried you. It preserved you. It protected you. But protection was never meant to replace you permanently. It was meant to hold your place until you were ready to return. And return doesn't mean destroying your life. Return means entering it consciously. You begin to notice the difference between continuing and arriving. Continuing happens automatically. Arriving requires attention. Continuing maintains your identity. Arriving creates it. Continuing protects stability. Arriving creates meaning. Meaning was never missing from your life. You were missing from meaning. Now meaning begins to reappear. Not because your life changed. Because you did. You stop watching your life from a distance. You start feeling it from within. You start noticing details that autopilot ignored. The weight of silence. The texture of your thoughts. The emotional signals that once disappeared before you could recognize them. You begin to feel yourself returning in fragments. Not all at once. Moment by moment. Choice by choice. Presence by presence. These fragments don't feel dramatic. They feel honest. Honest in a way survival never allowed. You realize now that you were never truly lost. Lost means there's no way back. You were never without a path. You were without presence, and presence can return. Presence was waiting behind your autopilot, waiting behind your protection, waiting behind your absence, waiting for you to notice. Because the part of you that notices your absence is the part of you that never left. And now you are no longer the person who continued without awareness. You are the person who arrived, not somewhere new. Here, inside the life that never stopped waiting for you. Inside, the moment that is no longer passing without you. Inside yourself. You're not lost. You're here. And for the first time in a long time, you didn't arrive automatically. You arrived consciously. Nothing outside you marks the moment it happens. No sound, no signal, no visible transformation that tells the world you've returned. Your life still looks the same. The same room, the same routines, the same people who never knew you were gone. Everything appears exactly as it was. But for the first time in a long time, you are inside it, not functioning, not continuing. Here, fully, you begin to notice the difference immediately. The difference between completing a moment and inhabiting it. Before, your life moved forward without asking for your presence. Now your presence moves with it. You feel yourself in your own thoughts. You feel yourself in your own choices. You feel yourself in your own existence, not observing, participating. And participation changes everything. Not because your life becomes easier, because your life becomes yours again. You realize now that you were never searching for direction. Direction was never the problem. You knew where to go. You knew how to continue. You knew how to survive. What you lost was not your path. It was your presence on that path. You walked it, but you didn't feel yourself walking. You spoke, but you didn't feel yourself speaking. You lived, but you didn't feel yourself living. Your life continued without interruption, without collapse, without you. And that's why no one noticed. Because absence hides behind functionality. As long as you function, your absence remains invisible. You did everything right. You fulfilled every expectation. You maintained every responsibility. You became the version of yourself your life required. And that version survived. But survival is not the same as aliveness. Survival protects existence. Aliveness inhabits it. You begin to understand something most people never see. You were never lost. Lost implies distance. Lost implies confusion. Lost implies separation from your life. You were never separated. You were present in every moment physically. But psychologically, you stopped arriving. You stopped stepping fully into your own experience. You stopped allowing yourself to exist inside your own life. Not because you failed, because you adapted. Adaptation protected you. Adaptation carried you. Adaptation preserved your life when presence felt unsafe. But adaptation was never meant to replace you. It was meant to hold your place until you were ready to return. And now you have. Not suddenly, gradually, not dramatically. Honestly, you are no longer the person who watched their life from a distance. You are the person who stands inside it. Not because your life changed, because you did. You stopped disappearing. You stopped leaving yourself behind. You stopped allowing autopilot to live for you. You reclaimed the only thing that was ever missing, your presence. And presence doesn't mean perfection. Presence doesn't mean constant happiness. Presence means participation. Participation in your own thoughts. Participation in your own emotions. Participation in your own existence. You are no longer observing your life like an outsider. You are living it like its author. Authorship was always yours. It was waiting behind your absence, waiting behind your survival, waiting behind your protection. You didn't lose your life. You lost your place inside it, and now you are back. Not as the person you were before, as the person who understands what it means to disappear and what it means to return. Your life never stopped. It never abandoned you. It never rejected you. It continued, quietly, patiently, waiting for you to arrive again. You're not lost. You were never lost. You were absent. Now, you're here, fully, finally, here. And the moment you truly arrive inside your own life is the moment it stops happening without you and starts happening with you.